Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation, Power Platform, Rise of the Copilots. A bit about me, I'm Keith Atherton, I'm a Power Platform architect and I'm a professional developer by background with over 25 years experience. I'm also lucky enough to be a Microsoft MVP, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and a LinkedIn learning instructor as well. If anyone has any questions after this session, just feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask away. I'm always happy to help. This session is part of the awesome SciFiDevCon event, and it's great to be back as a returning speaker. A massive thank you to Brian Gorman for organising it. I appreciate it must be a lot of work, but it's a brilliant event and I'm privileged to return as a speaker. After you've watched this session, please do check out the other brilliant sessions as part of the event. So for last year at SciFiDevCon, I showed us how to create a Canvas app within Power Apps using Copilot. This year I'm going to take things to the next level and show a few more of the Copilot features available. So we're going to be looking at using Copilot in a way to create Power Apps, Power Automate flows, Power Pages websites, and Copilot Studio custom agents. Now there's a lot there and we'll unpack that in a moment. Really, the way generative AI and copilots have gone over the last year, they've really grown and they're really a big part of the Power Platform now. So there are kind of two sides to them as well. We can use copilots ourselves as developers or makers to actually build the solutions, but also there's some more copilot options that are more end user facing that we can actually embed within these apps and solutions as well. So then the end users can actually query the data and actually get those kind of insights as well. So kind of copilots, both sides of solutions there. First up, we'll take a step back and look at the Power Platform. So just a bit of an overview of the Power Platform. This is really Microsoft's low code and no code tool set where we can build solutions, and we'll go over some of the products that they've got available. So this is the Microsoft marketing page. If I scroll a bit further down to products, we've really got these 5 main services as part of the Power Platform, and there's sometimes a bit of an overlap with the Power Platform and other parts of the Microsoft tech ecosystem as well. So looking at the top left, we've got Microsoft Power BI, thinking about visuals like reports and dashboards and so on, getting insights on the data that you've got. This is also part of Fabric as well. Next up, we've got Microsoft Power Apps. We can tell by the name it's apps. So these are really apps that end users would use, often internal within an organization. Then we have Microsoft Power Automate. This is a way we can have some kind of automation. It might deal with files or send emails or send notifications to users. This is something that can work away in the background, either scheduled or event driven. There's a few other ways of doing this. You can do it immediately with a button click as well. And again, it can kind of connect many different systems using wrappers around APIs to kind of automate integration between systems. Then we have Microsoft Power Pages. These are really to create websites and portals where users can actually log in to these sites as well. And then Microsoft Copilot Studio, which can often stand by itself as well, but also part of the Power Platform, is a way we can create custom agents that end users would use. So most people might think about text-based chatbots, but there are other options with Copilot Studio as well. Okay, so let's go back to this site we have right here. So I'm actually at make.powerapps.com. Now, if you have a license already, either personally or through your organization, you'll be able to access this as well. If not, there are things out there like the Power Apps developer plan, where you can actually go ahead and set up an account to play with some of these tools as well. So first up, within Power Apps, what we can do is we can actually go to, on this left navigation, we can go to create, and we can say, okay, we want to create an app either starting with Copilot, which is what we'll look at today. We can start with data. Let's say, okay, I want to point to something that exists already and just build an app around that data. We can start with a page design or with a blank canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a blank canvas. We can say, do we want it responsive, tablet or phone size? I'll start off with a tablet one. And this is just going to start us off with this blank canvas, hence the name Canvas Apps. And really this is more of a pixel perfect way of building up the UI to make it look and feel exactly how we want. So we start off with this big white rectangle canvas that we've got right here. What we can do is go ahead and insert some controls on there. So let's add a text label, move this around. I don't know, I'll just set some text in there. Let's go ahead and add a text input as well. You can see we can kind of align these quite easily as well. They kind of snap into place. We can kind of change the size and position quite easily, and we can build up this UI as much as we need to. So this is great if we've got some very kind of custom look and feel that we need. This was my entry point into Canvas Apps and specifically Power Apps, certainly from being a .NET app developer as well. However, what we're going to do, we're just going to leave this one behind. I'm just going to go back here. Don't want to save that. Let's go back to the home page. So while we can create them from scratch, again, we're going to look at some Copilot options today. And a way where we can use natural language to describe what we want it to do to build up that app for us. So when we go to this home in the navigation, we're actually prompted front and center with this Copilot right here. Let's build an app. What should it do? As it says here, we can use everyday words to describe what your app should collect, track, list, or manage. So we can actually type in here and say, okay, create an app to do X, Y, Z. We can be specific what we want. The other thing we can do as well is we've got some suggestions up here to get us started. So things like collect RSVPs, track sales leads, and so on. I'll go ahead and do this list inventory one right here. I'll say, okay, list inventory of, I don't know, sci-fi movies. I'll go ahead and click go right here. And what this is going to do for Power Apps is going to do a few things. It's going to start off with a data model first, like many different app developments would, say, okay, what kind of tables do you need? What kind of columns do those tables have? How are they related? Then after that, we'll look at the actual front end of the app. So just as I mentioned there, we've got the first part suggested a data model for us. So it said, okay, I have a movie table. I've got columns like title, release year, director, and genre. We can see from some of these icons, it's actually suggesting what kind of data types they might be as well. So I'll go ahead and click on movie. And if I go ahead on view data up here, I'm just going to zoom in and out this canvas. I can pan and zoom as well. Let's move it there. So I can see right there, movie, we've got title. If I go right here to edit column, I can see it suggested the data type is a single line of text. We can have different formats. In this case, it's just text and it's a required field. We do have other options and properties as well, but we can see the core ones. It's kind of pretty much bang on. This is what we'd expect it to be. Let's just move this out a little there so we can read that. We can see release year, we can see that as number. We can see director, we've got Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan, and so on. And we've got genres as well, which appears to be some kind of lookup, which we'll come to in a moment. We can see it's also populated some dummy data in here as well. So even though we've said sci-fi movies, we've not actually entered this data manually anywhere. And it's not just give us, something meaningless as well. It's actually figured out these are sci-fi movies. It's actually got the correct years, directors, and genres, and it's populated them here with a starter for 10. So it's given us 5 rows of dummy data in this table. Now this can be quite useful when we actually create the front end and see the app up and running. We can actually see this meaningful data populated in there, so it's actually kind of useful. We can actually see how data would look in the system rather than just be presented with a blank UI. So I'm going to go ahead and close this preview down for a moment. Let's zoom back into this data model. So we can see again, we've got this movie table. We can see we've also got a lookup to an actor table right there. And we've also got a reviews table as well. So this data model is a good starting point. Again, we can go in here. Let's go to actor and view the data. again, we can see meaningful dummy data has been populated in there as well. We can see there are actually, the movies that they're looked up to as well. So the relationships are in action right here. But we can actually say, this is great, but I actually want a new column. You can click on here and create a new column. It would add it to the table. Likewise, if some of these weren't quite correct, we can do edit column or delete them if we need to as well. We do have a Copilot on the right hand side. It's gone ahead and created this data model that we can see. I can actually do something here as well. Let's go back to movie and in the Copilot say, this is great, but actually create 5 more rows in the movie table. It's going to go ahead and work away on this. Hopefully it can understand what I've requested right there and then give us some more dummy data in the table. But you could say, give me 100 more rows. You could say, create a new table, called genre. That is the lookup table. At the moment, this is known as a choices field, but we could say, have a new table with genre because it might change quite often. So if I scroll down, I can see, there we go, it's added some more records there as well. And again, all looking correct in terms of sci-fi movies. Really, really good. So I'll close this preview. Once we've got the data model that we're happy with, that's really part one of creating the Power App. The next part is really creating the front end, the UI. What we can do here where it says save and open app, if I do a drop down, we've got 2 Power App types. So the Canvas app was the one that I had the manual creation for that we went through. That's the kind of pixel perfect. I'm placing controls where I want them to be. And then we have a model driven app. And this is really an app where a lot of the UI is auto-generated based off the data model. In other words, what we're seeing on the screen right now. So this would have a very kind of more traditional look and feel in terms of like forms and grids and things like that. So it does look fine, but it's a bit more of a standard, a plainer UI. With the Canvas app, we can actually have a lot more control over that look and feel. I'll leave the selection of Canvas app on. I'll go ahead and click on Save and Open App. Now it's going to work away and build up that front end. It's going to build up the UI with the grids, with the forms, all the buttons that we need sitting on top of that data model. This one might take a moment, so we'll just leave this working away. And again, the big advantage with this is that obviously I've explained the steps as we've gone through this, but just with a simple sentence, and we can refine it further, it's actually creating the back end and the front end of a Power App for us. And we can choose what type of Power App it would be. So if you're a traditional developer, this could just be a big time saver to get you that starter for 10. Another way could be that if you're new to development, you're not technical, sometimes known as a citizen developer or citizen maker, this could be a way of saying, hey, I can get an app up and running without having to do too much work or too much technical work. And again, it can always give us that starting point that we can tweak and change further if we need to as well. So just finishing up, the app is actually just finishing up the front end and loading away. There we go. So again, this is a starting point. We don't have to follow this exactly. What we've got right here is on the left, we can see we've got a welcome screen where we can see those 3 tables, the movies, actors and reviews. There's a way to get into each of them. Let's have a look at the movies screen and let's go ahead and preview the app. So we can see we've got a grid, a gallery, also known as on the left, with all the movies with the years. And then when we select each one on the right hand side, we've got a form that's actually showing all of the columns, all of the fields that were created for those particular films. We can see out of the box as well that we've got things like we can search on here as well. Let's search for the Matrix. We can go ahead and create a new record. On the right hand side, we can edit and delete existing records as well. So again, may not be exactly what we want the app to look like, but it does give us that useful starting point as well. So yeah, really, really useful. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Okay, so while we did start with this point, Power Apps has got something a little more special at the moment as well in terms of just this regular Copilot. So up in the top right hand side, we've got try the new Power Apps experience. And this really takes a Copilot to the next level. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. So what we looked at before was a Copilot where we could say, create a specific app. And that's fine, that does one app. But often when you're building a solution, it may be that we've got multiple apps. We might have multiple Power Automate cloud flows that connect with the app. We might have, the tables like we created with the other one, and so on and so on. So what we have in the new Power Apps experience is a way of creating what's known as plans. And this is the plan designer. So here we can see I have a larger space for this, but we can describe the problem that we have. And we don't need to be specific to say, create me an app that does this. We can say, what is the problem? And then it would actually suggest the more than one app. It might be one or more that it needs to create. And again, all the data model and all the other flows and anything else we might need as well. So we can go ahead and describe this, or again, we've got some kind of suggestions we can do up here as well. So things like, I need my staff to check out equipment and be notified of due dates. Employees need to log vacation hours, and so on. So I quite like the sound of this one. My team needs a solution for tracking projects across the company. So I'm going to go ahead with this suggestion. I can tweak this and change it if I need to, and I can add some sources to provide more detail. So let's say if I've got a list of my projects in Excel at the moment and say, well, I know what kind of data model format I need, I can actually go ahead to add source, and it gives it a bit more context for this Copilot of what to create. But I'm going to go ahead and just click on go for this. Now the great thing with this plan designer, again, it's going to look at the solution and the problem as a whole, as a project. So on the left hand side, we're going to say, okay, here is the plan. What is the business problem? What's the purpose of the plan? And you can see it's actually going to start us off with some user requirements. Now again, we can make changes, we can edit these or say, yeah, it's looking good. And really what this is doing, this plan designer, is it's using agents to help us build this solution. So you can see the user requirements. I have a persona of project manager, and as a user, I need to create new projects so that they can be tracked and managed. I need to assign tasks to team members so that work is distributed efficiently. Now this is great. I've not typed any of this. This has just inferred this from that problem statement, albeit one with not very much context. It was just a simple sentence. But it's able to say, I'm going to kind of suggest these user requirements for project managers, team members, and executives, say senior leadership, for example. And you can say, it's good or bad, I want to change these. And then on the right hand side, it's given us some kind of structure for these personas as well. So we've got some agents that help us here. So the first one we're dealing with right now, if I hover over this, is the requirements agent. It's saying, okay, I'm going to look at the requirements and build up the actual kind of plan that we need. Then after that, we're going to go back into familiar territory, the Copilot we just saw. So we're going to say, okay, now I'm going to have a data agent that's going to be looking at the data model. And then after that, we've got the solution agent, that's going to work on the needs, processes, and data. So there's some kind of overlap here. Now, if we go further down, we can say, okay, we can change these if we want, but say, okay, these requirements look good. Next up, we mentioned the data agent will go next. We're going to look at the data model. It's going to suggest these new tables. We can scroll, let's pan. So it's all on one canvas up here, but let's scroll right here. So we've got loads of new tables that we're going to suggest. But again, we might be able to edit this and say, it's not quite right. Let's, show me the details. What does that model look like? Okay, relationships look fine. Let's check the budget table. Okay, it's fine. Maybe I want another column, or I want to tweak an existing column. Fine. So we can go ahead and make any changes that we need. I'm going to go ahead and do back. I say, yeah, data model looks good. And next up, this is an interesting one. So where before we had something that built a single app with that UI, the front end, this is saying, okay, based on this, I think you need something called a project management app, which will be a model-driven app. And this is an app for project managers to create, assign, and track projects and tasks. Fine. I think you also need a task management app, which will be a Canvas app. I think you need an executive dashboard, which will be a report. I think you need a flow called a deadline notification flow and an agent called a project approval agent. So again, it's built up an ecosystem for the entire project, not just focusing on a single app. It's looking at the entire solution as a whole. And we can go from there to say, yes, this looks good. And we can actually say, okay, use the agents to go ahead and build some of these components as well. So this is a really interesting way that development's going, and we can see lots of evolution with this plan designer from Microsoft. So we can see things are really, kind of getting more features in this way. Very, very useful. So rather than take this one forward, I think we'll leave this one here, but this is just a kind of overview of what that plan designer can do. Okay, so next up, let's look at Power Automate, one of those other services as part of the Power Platform. So if we go to make.powerautomate.com, again, this is the kind of portal for us to get into Power Automate. Again, there are ways we can go ahead and create some flows from scratch using Create, but we are faced front and center with this Copilot to say, create your automation with Copilot. Similar to before with Power Apps, we can describe in detail with within this window right here, this text input to say what we want, or we have some suggestions right up here as well. So some of the suggestions we got here: every month, copy your files from OneDrive folder to another OneDrive folder, or things like when a new item is created in SharePoint, send me an email. The great thing with this as well, when we click into the text input, we do get some selected, some suggested flow descriptions as well. Things like every week, send a message to a Teams channel with a tag. And if we type in here as well, so every morning, we can see this autocomplete is coming up to do something as well. So every morning, send an email with the weather forecast for today. I'll go ahead and click on generate. Now, this Power Automate Copilot has been around for quite a while. It's been a really good, reliable, robust one as well. So often the results for this are pretty good actually. I've been happy with most of the the suggested flow that is created. So the one it's got for here, it's saying, okay, the trigger for this would be a recurrence trigger, which makes sense because I said I want it to work every morning. I might be more specific on the time and say it's at 7 a.m. every day, something like this. And then it's going to suggest these actions such as get the forecast for today, and then using MSN Weather for the connector, and then send an email using the Office 365 Outlook connector, and then from there I can specify who does the email get sent to and what's the format. So I'd say this is looking pretty good. No need to make any more suggestions or refine it or add any more details. I'll do keep it and continue. So I need to connect to these services to be able to use them. Looking good to me. Create the flow. There we go. So what it's done is it's given us the starting point, say there's the recurrence trigger every day. And again, I can stop being specific to say what time it's going to start or what hours it would run. I say get the forecast for today. So I'm able to start adding things like location. Let's add Edinburgh. We can set the units, imperial metric right here. I can then send an email. So again, I can specify who it's going to be sent to, what the subject line would be, and what the body of the email would be. Presumably, it's going to actually take in some of these things from the forecast. So, okay, I want to get the conditions, and I want to, okay, well, I've requested it for today, so I know the today, and the chance of rain as well. Okay, I'm probably going to format the text a bit nicer than that, but it can actually pull useful things in there. And when it's ready, I can actually save this flow once I've filled everything in, which I haven't at the moment. And then I can test it just to give it a run to say, hey, I'm happy with this. That's great. Now save the flow. And then every day it's going to perform this action for me. So again, even without being an expert with Power Automate, you can get started just with a sentence in the Copilot to say, hey, go ahead and create this for me. So really, really useful. So next up, we're going to have a quick look at Power Pages. So again, Power Pages are a way of creating websites as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this down. I'm just going to change my environment right here at the top. Okay, similar again. So make.powerpages.microsoft.com. So now we're in Power Pages world. You can see up there. And again, we're prompted with this Copilot to say, describe the kind of site that you want, and AI will create that first draft. And again, that will give us a starting point. We can make changes either with a Copilot or manually after that as well. Similar again, we're going to get some suggestions, create a site to manage project proposals, or design a website for community engagement initiatives. So I'm going to stick with the project theme up here and create a site to manage project proposals. I'm not going to add any more to that. Let's keep it vague and give it a shot, see what we get. So this one's going to work away. This is another one of the Copilots I've seen really improve over time as well. They all have really. They've all evolved and had things added to them as time's gone on. So this one, it's going to give us a few prompts to refine this, to say, give the site a name. Project Proposal Manager sounds good to me. Create a web address. It's suggested one right here. Let's remove this auto-generated. See, does that exist? Yes, that doesn't exist. It is available. So it'll be Project Proposal Manager.powerappsportals.com. Site language we can change. No, we can't. Rather, we just got English US, so we'll leave that as is and go to next. So now it's going to give us, the option to pick the site layout that meets our needs. So we can see something here. We can say this is fine, or try again. We're not happy. This is just generated this for us. This, okay, looks fine. We can edit the description. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with this and do next. And again, this is like a website builder. It knows what we want. So we can say, well, you can add some pages. Okay, I want a contact us page. Here's some suggestion what it would look like. Want to submit a proposal. I'll pass on the FAQ. Want to review proposals. Again, so it's trying to kind of tailor it for what we've requested in terms of the website. And once we've done all this, again, I won't do this just in the interest of time, but we can go ahead and do done. It would create us that starting point site, and then we can make changes from there on out. Say, well, actually, I want the format a little different here, or I want a new page that has not been suggested by this prompt right here. So again, really, really powerful way of getting up and running very, very quickly. And sometimes that can be good for like an educational need. Say, well, I'm new to Power Pages. I don't know how to build them completely from scratch. Can you just, knock one up very quickly that is kind of basic, and then I'll just poke around and explore and get familiar with it. So yeah, really, really useful option. Okay, next up, we're going to look at Copilot Studio. Now, this is where you can create custom agents. They tend to be referred to as agents more than copilots more and more these days. And for this, I'll go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com. I'll go ahead and change the environment up here as well. And again, a very similar, consistent look and feel, that we're going to get this kind of portal with navigation on the left, but the Copilot prompt in the top in the middle right here. In this one, describe your agent to create it. So again, we can just type in there to say, I want an agent that does X, Y, Z, or we can go with some of these suggestions at the very top, like help desk, expense tracking, HR and benefits. Let's go with HR and benefits. So create an agent for topics related to human resources and employee benefits. Okay, so far so vague. Let's go ahead and give this a run. Now, the great thing with Copilot Studio with this agent is it's actually giving us an agent to prompt us to build a custom agent. So it's actually going to guide us through the process with a Copilot agent right here. So, hello, I'm here to help you build an agent so you can get more done. You can say something like, provide best practices for project management, or help my teammates on board to a new project. What would you like to make? Now, we've already done this first stage on the first screen, which was create an agent for topics related to human resources and employee benefits. And on the right hand side, it's keeping track of all of the things that we're going through. So say, okay, language is English US. Let's see if we've got any other options right here. Okay, I'm based in the UK, so I'm going to change that to English United Kingdom and save that. And that's going to keep track of these things, what the agent's going to do, and so on and so on. So next up, great. Now let's determine a name for your agent. How about HR Benefits Assistant? Please confirm or suggest another name. So we can say, okay, that's fine or not. So let's say change the name to HR 2000. I don't know why. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Give it a run. And there we go. It's changed the name up there on this kind of keeping track of what we're building up here. HR 2000. The agent's name has been updated to HR 2000. Next, let's refine the instructions. So again, we can specify what we want it to do. So provide information on employee benefits. Looks good to me. Let's just go with that. Fantastic. Got it. Now let's move on to the next aspect. Are there any specific guidelines or rules that the bot should follow when providing information on employee benefits? So there's good things here, always provide the most up-to-date information. Now we can appreciate for HR and benefits information, that would be very valuable in this case. If this was an agent that was doing something more creative, maybe we'd relax that a little more. Be concise and clear, refer to policies, all these sound really good. So I'm going to go for a couple of these. Always provide up-to-date info, refer to company policies. I'll say use a professional tone of voice as well. We can see what this agent's doing. Again, it's very specific in the path it's taking for us on the prompts it's asking. This is a good one here. Let's determine if there are any publicly accessible websites or data sources that this agent should reference. So again, this could be useful to say, well, we only want to use our organization's HR information. So we are going to be specific to say, well, don't go to the public website, just use our internal SharePoint site or use an internal data source in some way. And again, this may be different depending on the agent. If it's a different kind of agent, say, I want to find sports results or sports scores from matches, say from football. Well, I might want to go public there because they will likely be published on news sites and sports sites. So again, it really depends on the need that you've got. And once we walk through these steps with the Copilot, once we get to the end, it actually creates that custom agent for us. And again, in the interest of time, I won't go through all that right now because some of that can take time. But again, with these 4 services that I've gone through, it's a really great way of getting started very, very quickly to build some kind of a solution. And then you can kind of explore and modify it in the ways that you need to as well. So really, really useful. So we've reached the end. Thank you very, very much. I mean, this could really be a full-day workshop, working through all these services, looking at all the options available, creating the those apps and agents and everything else, and kind of looking at those end results and tweaking them further. But really just wanted to whet the appetite to show you what is possible with those 4 services. And really, they've really developed a lot in the last year and 2 years or so really, into something a lot more fully featured and something a lot more powerful. So I'd encourage you, a bit of homework, go ahead if you're interested in any of these or all of them, go ahead and set up a free account if you can, or a free trial, have a play around with them, see what you can do. I mean, you can create apps, you can create custom agents, you can create so many things that you can use for your personal productivity, or that you can use within your organization or for your customers and clients as well. So yeah, I would encourage you, do give them a go. If you've got any questions at all or want to learn more, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, just search for my name, Keith Atherton. And again, after this session, go ahead and check out the other cool sessions on SciFiDevCon, and hopefully we'll catch you next time. Take care.